All right, y'all, this is Steven. Welcome back. This is another video. It's New York session, July 30th. And we have an TradingView chart up with an initial balance on the screen. It's this red line. That's the bottom of the initial balance. And we also have a green line at the top of the initial balance. Then we have some resistance at the top of this zone that we created. And we also have some resistance at the bottom of this zone that we created. Now, there were some imbalances back in the chart, back to the left here, which we bounced off of and continued up. That would have been a great entry. I was asleep because I stayed up for the London session. Probably shouldn't have, but I did. And that trade is outlined pretty much break even on the last video. Then if we look up here, we also had some selling pressure all the way across. So we call that supply zone and the demand zone, depending on which side of the chart you're on. And we're basically trying to break out of this initial balance. Now, we also had an opening range break where the green and the red lines signify the first 15 minutes opening range, and we had actually a pretty good move. So it broke out of the opening range, and if I would have followed the algo, we probably would have had a winner, and it almost broke to about 100% of the opening range to the top side before rejecting back down to the bottom. So pretty interesting. Now, obviously, if we're just looking at the range that we're currently in, we can see that 61% is, or the .618 middle of the pocket is about right there. Make that a little bigger. So we did retrace almost back to that 618 line. But we might even retrace a little bit deeper to this 0.5 line before moving higher again. So those are two areas I'm looking for a rejection at. Looks like we have some support there all the way back. So that's an area of interest for me to maybe get involved. But we are near FOMC. I believe it's 2 p.m. Eastern. It's 11 now, 11:08 to be exact. And we're just kind of in limbo. We're just looking to get in to a position. We'll get rid of this big line, just too cluttered on the screen. And all these blue lines that you see are some different VWAPs that I've anchored and handed off from different swing highs or swing lows. The most important one, I believe, at the moment is this yellow one. As we came to it, kind of consolidated, bounced back up, came to it, bounced again, before moving down to some of these handed off VWAP levels, and came back up to retest it, and we're retesting it multiple times before it breaks. So my bias is bullish. I think the news, and I believe we're not expecting interest rate cuts, but the news hasn't been great today regarding tariffs. Supposedly there's not a deal that's close with, I'll keep that there since it's locked. There's not a deal that's close with China. So we're now going to come back to candles. And let's look at the Heiken Ashi because they're just a little bit more appealing to the eyes. So that's what we have. And we can see multiple VWAP lines forming a wall. So this is really the area of interest for me to maybe get into a long. more so than this level. Plus it's at the 50% mark. So we'll see. That's kind of the situation. So hopefully the chart isn't too busy, but to the downside, if we do continue down, this is a level that I'm really looking at right here. 6,400, also a psychological level. And this level is basically the bottom of the initial balance. Oh, no, it's not. Excuse me. The bottom of the initial balance is right here. So we'll just move these out of the way. And this should come up to there. So that's our first hour. So it's the swing high, swing low. Just slightly. So we double broke the initial balance today. And you can see we did react at all of these different levels that had imbalances, big buying or selling imbalances based on the color in the past. Sometimes an area that was a selling imbalance becomes a buying imbalance and vice versa. All right, so we're going to pause the video in the meantime as we wait for FOMC. Actually, let's do one more thing. All right, so let's just look at a divergence. One thing I did add was a RSI divergence. So we have a lower high here. And let's find that same area. And we have a lower high here. So no divergence there. And same thing here. We have a higher low. And at the bottom, let's make this a little bigger. We have a higher low. So no divergence at the moment. Get rid of those. So anything can happen. But my first thought is that we are going to probably continue higher because maybe all of this downward pressure on this retracement was news and the interest rate not being cut or rates not being cut is going to already be priced in. So it's already known. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We're going to pause the video. We'll come back with an update closer to FOMC. All right, so we're back, y'all, with a little bit of an update. And so FOMC happened at 2 p.m. And there was a little bit of a movement, still indecision with this doji right here. And you see once Powell started speaking, 2:30, price pretty much started up, and 2:35 it pretty much dropped all the way down. Basically, we cleaned the high, broke back out of the opening range, and then we ripped down through a shit ton of levels. And now we're testing a range that I have identified in the past that hasn't mitigated yet. So almost returning back to where we started with this yellow VWAP. So a couple of things we can do here is we can anchor another VWAP. Let's say, I guess we'll do it right to this 930 candle on the 5 minute. It would be a little more accurate to do it on the 1 minute, but just we can get close enough here. So we are below average weighted volume price. I can anchor another one down here. to kind of give us an idea. You can see we bounced there, we handed it off again, and that's kind of how I used anchored VWAP. So it gets a little busy on the chart, but these green lines are just divergences that I was looking at. So kind of disregard those. It's a little busy on the screen. So I'm going to get rid of everything right now, just so we can see. So essentially, I was looking at price action on Bookmap, which I don't have up here. So we're just going to keep this really simple. I was actually in a call when all this went down, and I had some things marked, and I just had to jump in. Otherwise, I would miss the opportunity to catch this down move. But at first, I was anticipating an up move as I saw us making higher highs, and then we eventually cleaned the range and started to basically the opening range, or in this initial balance, right? This is a range right here. We cleaned it. Let me hide that again. And then I was anticipating maybe here we bounce and continue up, but I saw this indecision candle here. Price started to move down, and I entered right here at about 412. So as soon as that closed out, I put my eyes on the screen and I entered about 412, which you'll see the second trade. If I zoom in, I know it's busy on the chart. I'm so sorry for that, but there's a lot going on. So you can see I entered my first trade where I actually was going short here, and I missed it, right? I got stopped out on the short, and then Powell started speaking, and I entered and took it all down to the bottom of the range where I exited. Even though price continued down, I was pretty safe to take it down to the bottom of this range, and I was happy to get out. So that's kind of the scenario. We just saw this indecision candle. We cleaned a high, breaking structure, and I thought that was a pretty good reversal zone, right? Because we didn't get the continuation. We bounced off hard and then continued down, got the indecision candle. And we actually entered here, and we added more on after the indecision candle. So I had 3 contracts, and as we made it down to the bottom, I took 2 contracts off, I believe, and then I took another contract off at the bottom of the range. So pretty good trade. Going back to Quant Tower now, we can kind of look at our log, and you can see where we basically got out of the 2 contracts at 64.03. We got out at 2 contracts at 2 contracts at 64.03, 2 contracts at 64.05, and 2 contracts at 64.18. So we kind of added on the way down there. Oh, that's for our buying. I'm sorry, it's really kind of confusing in here, but you can basically see what we did. Our entry was 421. That's where we sold, and 424 was where we got stopped out on the original short. You can see the 55.75 loss. So essentially, we got stopped out at 64.26, re-entered the short at 64.21 when we saw the reversal. We took some profit at 418, and I think something happened with the orders. I'm not sure what the hell happened, but it's kind of crazy. So I think we added some contracts and removed some contracts. So haven't been a huge fan of some of the order placing functions on the chart. It seems like some contracts get fail to close, which sometimes puts me into the opposite position, like a reversal. So I got to really be conscious of that and consistently come back here, close the working orders out. So if we just look at account info, our balance back up to 50,607 for this first account. We started the day at 54.97, and that's $116 back on the trade. And coming back to TradingView, you can see that we are now ranging in that area of interest. Go ahead and see right down here. We'll get rid of some of this stuff. It's just too much to look at. And so that was our trade. I'm not sure if we're going to get into another one, so we'll conclude the video here. So I'm happy with our quick decision making, considering we weren't 100% focused. I just saw the rejection happening. I wasn't even listening to the conference, to be honest. So that rejected cleanly from this zone we drew before. We essentially broke to the top of this zone that we've been ranging in for pretty much most of the morning, which was the initial balance, the 1 hour initial balance. And you can see we kind of were bouncing back and forth between these areas. Just going to move that back. So we'll remove this zone. Essentially, we took our target here at this 402 and we got out of the trade and put our stop loss above the rejection high, which originally on our original trade this morning was ironically this TP2. So we were just early. We actually got to where we thought we were going to get in our first trade this morning, but we didn't get there until FOMC. So I'm happy with my analysis. My timing needs a little bit of improvement. Maybe just stay away from the morning or the London session and just get some good sleep and just focus on the New York session, instead of just trying to be in a trade all the time. So sorry for the super cluttered charts with all these VWAPs, but they're fairly important. I think we can start to remove some of them. But you can see they're all respected at some point, right? Which ones are more important than the others? Seems like this one is fairly important, but we could probably get rid of this. Oops, what did I just do there? We could probably get rid of this one. And you can probably get rid of this one. I don't know, that looks pretty important. So we have one high, one low. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably get rid of that one. And maybe this one. So that cleans it up a little bit. It does get a little bit busy. And these were just divergences on the RSI below. I don't look at it all the time. It's just kind of a confluence thing. So see, I drew some lines at the bottom here. So until next time, be back for the next trade.